feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. But it's
You are listening to the Seattle Shrimp Tank, streaming to you on Facebook. You can now catch us every other week on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio here on Facebook until we resume broadcasting in our physical studio. I'm Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host, Dan Whedon. You can always catch a replay of the podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle and through iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes so you never miss an episode. If you are subscribed, please rate our podcast on iTunes. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. Our guest for today's podcast is Bradley Franco with Ulterius Flux. Welcome, Bradley.
Glad to be here.
So, Dan, how you been?
Brad Berger, you know, I have to tell you, I missed you 2 weeks ago, and I love J.B. Wilson Jr. the 7th. He's fantastic, and we've missed him. But you know, I don't get to see you in person anymore, so I miss the times that I get to see you holographically.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate JB filling in. I was over in Eastern Washington enjoying some sunshine and time with the family. So I try to limit my work activities when I'm with the fam.
Absolutely. Now, listen, I do want to bring up something we normally talk about some business topic or fun topic. Yeah. I want to give you the chance to talk about something that's coming up in, I think, just under 2 months, which is really exciting. Talk about your event, and one of our shrimp peeler sponsors.
You got it. So I was approached to essentially put together and facilitate a health and wellness retreat. 3-day event from our friends and shrimp peeler sponsors, the resort at Port Ludlow. So if you want additional information on this event, and I'll describe it here in just a minute, go to portludlowresort.com/retreat. The name of the retreat is Transformation on the Water. It's taking place September 12th through 14th. I always like to mention to individuals that there are several things you need to be aware of. First and foremost, we are going to take social distancing and the intimate gathering nature of it seriously. So this is an intimate group so that we have plenty of room to socially distance and to be safe. All of the recommended COVID-19 and coronavirus standards we're going to be adhered with. We're also going to be flexible. So we've got a very generous cancellation policy. So you don't need to, it's kind of a risk-free registration with regard to the event. Registration is open at portludlowresort.com/retreat. 3 days, health, wellness, plenty of me time, plenty of free time, farm to table, healthy meals, kayaking, hiking, golfing, all sort of massage, meditation, yoga, all sorts of great activities to participate in. So with the special discounts, whether you bring your partner or just a friend that you qualify for, and all the information again is at portludlowresort.com/retreat. We're super excited.
And Brad, what we'll do is I'm going to make sure that we put it on the Facebook page right here. If you're watching right here, we'll put it on the Facebook page as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan.
So, absolutely. So our guest today bears the same name as you do. So we decided, so we would not get confused, we'll go Bradley for Bradley and Brad for you. And that way I won't get confused at all. But I've gotten a chance to know Bradley Franco a little bit over the last, few months. I got a chance to meet him at Vibe Coworks. Of course, you know our friend Elena Imbach and all the great folks over at Vibe. In fact, we've had several of Vibus on as guests. Bradley's another one. Bradley has a unique business, which we're going to talk about, and it's about video. And I think all of our viewers are going to really enjoy learning more about Bradley and his business. So Brad, would you tell everybody a little bit more about Bradley Franco?
Well,
Absolutely.
the
Oh,
first
sorry.
thing
It's confusing.
is Bradley without an E, right? So
Yes.
that to make it even more confusing. So Bradley Franco is the creative director and video producer of Ulterius Flux. He was
Ulterius Flux.
Ulterius.
We had this
Thank you.
conversation.
Yeah, we had this
Okay.
conversation. Ulterius Flux. He was born in California, but raised right here in the Puget Sound, in fact, in Kitsap County. Previously, he worked as a landscaper, a dishwasher, a nuclear machinist mate, and a personal trainer. A few major achievements Bradley has accomplished in his life are learning how to ride a unicycle, graduating from the Naval Nuclear Program, and dropping out of college 3 times. After a third dropout, it began the start of Bradley's business. Special shout out to Cafe Kachina, Sully's Bar and Bistro, the Anfield Shop, and Kitsap Kitchen and Bath. All local businesses in Kitsap County for being there at the start. In those businesses, Bradley started off doing a lot of everything, including photos, videos, graphic design, etc. 2 years later, to present day, Bradley believes he wouldn't be where he is as if it weren't for them. So Bradley currently serves local businesses in Kitsap County and hopes of traveling for projects one day. Bradley, welcome to the Seattle Shrimp Tank.
Thanks for having me, guys and gals.
Yeah, so Bradley, listen, let's jump right into what it is that you do. And I posted it on Facebook. People can go back onto our page and look. They watched your video business cards, I think what you call it. Talk about what it is that your business is, and really importantly, I think for everybody, what motivated you to do this? What gave you idea? How did you get into this?
Absolutely. So let's start at the beginning. It all started off just making really pretty videos, but it wasn't really a lack of passion or commitment, but what I realized it was more so a lack of fulfillment and, really wondering if I was making a difference. So with the transformation of my business and with the video business cards, basically what I get to do is humanize businesses. I think it's very important because there's this stigma, that business is just business and there's not really any people interaction, but behind every single business, there are awesome people. And I've been able to serve a lot of awesome people in the area. And I think there's a part 2 to your question that you had.
Well, how did you get involved in it? Because I agree with everything that you just got done saying. I love the part of seeing the people, but what got you to think, oh, after all the things we just heard you say, what got you to say, oh, I'm going to do this?
Well, after life was kind of leaving some breadcrumbs that I was ignoring for a long time, I worked at a wide variety of professions from a dishwasher to a nuclear machinist mate. Life just kind of happened abruptly. I was going to school for physical therapy when I was a personal trainer at that time. But it almost seems like overnight my life changed. And so after the third time I dropped out, all I really had was a camera, which I bought 3 months ago. And so Eric Mahler, I hope you see this one day. He basically, I met him for some beers and I was like, hey man, I got some good news. And so we met for beers and, we're drinking and he's like, so let's hear it. And I'm like, I dropped out of college and I had just like a single teardrop. And from there, being the best friend that he is, he offered me a job. And he's like, hey dude, do you want to do some photos, do some videos for the shop, just kind of get your feet going. And I didn't really have an option. Life kind of steered me in all these different directions. And looking back, I wouldn't change a thing.
So Bradley, the natural question that I have is, what is a video business card?
So a video business card is basically a 2.5 minute video of a business story. So a typical storyline is who, why, what, how, call to action. So from there, really being able to capture the true essence of who these people are, and I think that's one thing that I'm super grateful for is being able to express to the world exactly how I see them. They're beautiful. And it's, sometimes they're just like, Brad, I don't know. I'm not really good in front of a camera. I've gotten pretty good at making people look really good on camera. I have a good track record. So, it's one of the most simple ways of indoctrinating people into your business. And so really allowing, people in the community to connect with these businesses on a human level.
So I want to back up a second because you brought something up. I've heard that from people too. Whether it's a still camera or a video camera, I don't like how I look. I don't like how I feel. I'm not very good. I've got to believe that there's a certain amount of coaching and directing that you have to do. What kind of skills does it take from your end? What are some of the motivations, and how do you influence and help people feel more comfortable in talking about themselves and their businesses?
Absolutely. I have some clients that, ask if they can drink on set. And I'm not going to say no, if that makes them more comfortable. But I think, before the day that we actually shoot, I'll meet with them a couple or a few times. So that way they're not talking to a complete stranger. So there's almost like this kind of friendship or relationship formed beforehand. So it almost feels like you're talking to a close relative or someone that you've known for a long time.
So, another area that I know that people have a lot of, trepidation around is copywriting, right? What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Do you help individuals create copyright, the content of what they're going to say?
Absolutely. I have a short list of questions that I don't necessarily ask specifically like that. Through the time that I've been in business, I've gotten really good at asking the same question 10 different ways to evoke the right response that I'm looking for. So it's just a matter of really understanding who the person is and then really figuring out the questions that I need to ask and how to ask them so that I get something that's a little bit more lively.
So, we know video is, sounds silly. Video has become an integral part of any business. It really doesn't matter what kind of business you have. You go to a lot of websites and you're going to see some level of video. Do you still have any challenges in getting people to understand that from a marketing perspective, I don't want to say the business card is dead, but that a video representation of 2 minutes is a really great way to send that message? Do you run into any challenges with that?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, I said absolutely like 5 times, I think. So I'll say it one more time. Absolutely. I would say one of the biggest challenges that I have is competing with other videographers, because I've had meetings before where they kind of have this preconceived notion of, $200 videos, $300 videos. So it kind of like boxes me. And I've been fortunate enough to work with BNI, if you're familiar with BNI at all.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And from there, it's a lot easier to do business with people that believe in you. It's just that combination, it's whether people believe you or you have to convince people. I try to stick to the believing side just because the conversations feel more organically and we naturally want to support each other.
So Brad Berger, just quick follow-up because I
Yeah.
want to have you.
Yeah.
So really, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're getting people who have confidence in you. It's really not hard to sell people on the fact that video is an important part now of marketing. Am I hearing that?
Oh, are you talking to Brad or Bradley?
No, Bradley Franco. See, I'm gonna have to change somebody's name, and I think I'm gonna have to change Berger. I'm just gonna say Berger. Bradley.
Yes.
Do people get that video is a really important part of marketing now?
I would honestly say it's half and half. There are some people that are kind of just trucking along and continue doing the same thing, and then on the other half, with the people that I work with, one common trait that I see a lot of them have is they want to grow. They want to, be filled with abundance. They want to expand. They just have this vision that they have. And as the creative director and with my skill set, being able to almost guide them and provide them with tools to bring in that type of business or type of work. For instance, there's an interior designer that I'm working with, and she's talking about these, massive projects that she has going on. And so with video, what's really cool is you can create assets that kind of give off that vibe, like we do $2 million jobs.
So I've got one question before we go to our first break, and that has to do with format, because of course I know that well over a decade ago, I used what then was referred to as a video business card, but what it was a very expensively designed, clamshell plastic case, with special, dies that it was in a unique shape. And there was a DVD inside that you would stick in your computer. But I would imagine that that's not the format we're using today. So maybe that ties into people's misunderstanding, reluctance, etc., with the use of video. Because how are you finding the most effective ways that once you create this video, that you have a distribution source? What is that source that you're using?
As far as where do these videos go?
Yeah, like how do they live? How do they get to the people, the intended audience?
Oh,
Are
okay.
they purely digital and social media? Are they put on, or is there a physical something that's sent out?
Well, we definitely live in a time now where I feel like we almost discredit our capability of posting things on social media. Like thinking back in the day, you had billboards that cost a lot of money, commercials on TV that cost a lot of money. But a simple click, and when you have a following on social media, it's so easy to share videos. Hey, if you have 5 seconds, can you click that share button? That'd be great. And more than often enough, say you have 1,000 friends on Facebook, you just still, you can either ask them directly or send them a message, whatever it is. But because it's so easy to share videos and content these days, they typically, as far as the videos that I've done, website, email, you can even text videos. That's incredible. You can, and also just with all the social media platforms too, it's so easy to get your content out.
I want to ask, I'm going to sneak in before the commercial. So when you give somebody that video business card, it can be in a format that I can text it to Brad Berger and say, check out my video or my video. And that's easily done then, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Cool.
And, as far as delivering these videos too, one of my favorite things that I started doing just recently, I'd say maybe like 2-3 months ago, is showing these videos in person. Because before I was kind of just sending these videos through email, but I wasn't getting, that feedback. And, I'll be honest, I've made some people cry, but it was like the good kind of crying, like a good job kind of cry. But I've definitely have created a habit where I will physically in person show you these videos because I put a lot of time, I put a lot of heart into these videos, and I want to make sure that they make you cry.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to make everybody cry right now because we have to go to commercial.
Great segue.
So it's a great segue. No crying allowed. We're going to take a short break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Bradley Franco, for our Hot or Not section of the show, we're going to find out if old school is hot or not. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Seattle Shrimp Tank.
The Seattle Shrimp Tank is brought to you by IdealLife360.com. What would it be like to be in the best shape of your life, both physically and mentally, every day for the rest of your life? Have awesome relationships with the people you care about most. Never having to worry about money again. What would it be like if you received a letter out of the blue and suddenly discovered you had 20 more years to live than you ever imagined? What would you do with those extra years of your life? How many lives would you touch? What kind of legacy would you leave behind? What changes would you make today knowing you had 20 more years in your future? What new big changes would you take on? What would be next? Text the word IDEAL to 89800 and learn how to rethink, redefine, and reinvent the best years of your life.
Thank you, Sue. That was awesome. And by the way, that's just a preview of what you could experience by coming to the 3-day Transformation on the Water event. And you can either text me, just as Sue had indicated, or you can go to portludlowresort.com/retreat for more information. Welcome back to the Seattle Shrimp Tank from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in Seattle and the greater Puget Sound area. I'm Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host, Dan Whedon. Remember, you can always catch, by the way, when we mean always, that's like 24/7. You can always catch a replay of our podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. And now you can catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. For our next segment, Hot or Not?
And Hot or Not is sponsored by our shrimp peelers, West Sound Workforce, the aforementioned Port Ludlow Resort, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, SJ Graphics, and the Kitsap Sun newspaper. By the way, all of our most recent episodes, this one will be the next one, will be pinned to the top of our Facebook page. So Bradley, for Hot or Not, I know you've seen the show. We're going to ask you some questions around business and around life. We want to know if you think the concept is hot or not, and then why. I mentioned old school. You're going, what the heck does that mean, probably? Well, hot or not, Bradley, shooting video in black and white.
I would say it's hot. I mean,
Talk to us about it, because I know I've seen photos that are very cool. Black and white photos are fantastic. I don't see as much video. Talk about that.
yeah, I mean, it's all preference, and also depending on what exactly it is that you're shooting for. So, I mean, probably not something in a business sense. It all depends on the client that you're working with. Also the vibe, if you're trying to do something a little bit more classy, maybe like slow music, maybe a violin, black and white all the way. So I think it's definitely a case-by-case scenario.
Well, Bradley, my question for you, and we talked a little bit about this, so I'm sorry if I'm stealing this from you, Dan, but we said that Ulterius Flux, right, sounded like maybe something from Transformers. So, maybe Optimus Prime is your mentor or hero. So the hot or not question that we have is, hot or not, having a mentor or a hero?
Oh, definitely hot. I've had so many. And the reason being is because, let's just talk about Star Wars. You got Yoda. Could you imagine that whole movie if he wasn't there? It would just be this guy just like walking around, just really trying to figure out his life. And I've worked with several coaches and mentors in the past, and I've probably worked with over 6 in the last 2 years, I'd say. And because you don't know what you don't know, right? So when you've worked with people that have gone through those experiences, it almost keeps you from making unnecessary mistakes. So definitely hot on that one.
So this next hot or not, obviously your work ends up on social media a lot, whether it's your social media or your clients. So hot or not, responding to negative comments on social media, should you do it or not?
Well, I would say you definitely should, because I just feel like if you're getting people that are complaining about something or aren't happy, that definitely offers a potential for growth. Have the conversation, figure out how you can make it happy, and also taking note that there are thousands of hundreds, millions of people that are on there. It just looks good for business owners to respond to these to all those messages.
So, we've all been kind of locked down for a while. We're still well into, I'll call it COVID-19 mode here in the Puget Sound. Several of our counties have moved forward. Some of them have been paused, and some of them have even rolled back. So during this COVID-19 pandemic, hot or not, making an investment to reinvent your marketing strategy?
Oh boy, this is a great question. I actually, in the beginning, I was looking at all the different ideas, whether it was coaching, I was creating an online program, and after about a month or two, when this all happened, I ended up just being really confused. I'm gonna be completely honest. And then as things started to settle, people just started to come back. People wanted more videos. So I think it was really important, especially for everyone watching too. It's if you didn't get out of that first initial 2 or 3 months without some additional skill or seeing other potentials for different sources of revenue, I think you're definitely doing a disservice if you haven't came out of all this with a different skill.
So I want to do a follow-up on the COVID, because if you look pre-COVID at Ulterius Flux, and if you look at your clients and the business cards you created, you were there, you were on site, you were filming it, you were one-on-one, or at least with the group, whatever that looked like. And in the last 6 months, that has been, I'm sure for you, a challenge, or where you couldn't do it. Have you created, or have you found a way to keep doing your business, to keep creating these business cards and these videos through Zoom or some other format? Has that been something that you've added to your repertoire?
That's where the double titles really comes in handy, being a creative director and a video producer. The video producing side, in the beginning stages of COVID, kind of got put on hold. But as far as the creative director portion, just being able to, give creative direction for some projects, whether you're a personal trainer and you're kind of, like with all the clients that I was working with, we're all kind of confused on what to do, what should we promote? And so just being able to be a really good sounding board for them. Okay, well, what if we did this? What if we did this? Well, okay, what kind of gear? Let's just use our phone. Just because with that direction, really made me feel still valuable, even though I wasn't able to do my primary job as actually being on set.
I just real quick. So what you're doing is coaching.
Basically. Yeah,
really what you're doing is coaching. And that's part, I'm assuming you're charging for that.
It's kind of like a 2-in-1 package.
Okay. All right.
So part of the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also during that time too, we basically just planned some stuff out for when we were actually able to shoot. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in the background before we actually do get to set. So basically having all these things set up, and then, okay, hey, we can shoot videos. Okay, let's go.
All right, here we go. This is one of the greatest debates of all time. PC or Mac?
You want my honest opinion?
Sure.
I want
you to lie to me.
I want you to know that Tim Cook and whoever, Bill Gates, are now watching us right now, and they're waiting for your answer.
They are regular listeners.
Well, I definitely made the transition several years ago, and once you get into the Mac ecosystem, it's really hard to get out. Like when my phone rings, I'm trying to figure out how to turn this off, but my laptop and my Mac and my phone and my iPad, they all ring at the same time. Some would say that's kind of crazy, but I think that's like one of the coolest things. I just got to figure out how to turn it off. But I just really enjoy how it all works together. Like the synergy and being able to airdrop. And also I've edited on PC before, probably not the strongest one, but I would just say that my MacBook is a 2014, my iMac is a 2010, and they still work perfectly.
And I will say this, I know a lot of people who are in the creative world, and I've done 3 LinkedIn learning courses. And even though LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, you walk into LinkedIn and all the stuff that they're shooting with, and it is all Mac. There is something around the ability to be creative with the Mac. Is that correct? Because that's what I've found with my own habits.
I just like how everything works. I don't have crashes. It doesn't freeze. And I mean, I probably could have made like a PC and made it myself, but this is just kind of an all-in-one package that works.
Yeah. So I have, and then I'm off the hot or not. Tell us a little bit about, because I know Brad loves this. You served some time in the military.
I did.
Well,
Talk about how, talk about where you served, which branch, and talk about how that experience, I'm assuming it's helped you in some way as an entrepreneur. Talk about that experience and how that has helped you as an entrepreneur.
Of course. Graduating high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And so my dad and my second oldest brother, they were military. And so I kind of just naturally followed in their footsteps. And as an 18-year-old in the military, one thing that I will say is I grew up really fast. When you're in the military, age doesn't really, it's not really something you think about. But it's just a certain level of professionalism, a certain level of brotherhood, and also being able to work together as a team to complete a job. So being underway, I was on a submarine. I was stationed in Bangor, and served a couple of years there. And I'll tell you, I can't even describe. I'm pretty sure I left a part of my soul down there, 1,000 feet underwater. But it was definitely an experience that has allowed me to grow up a lot faster.
Well, one of the things I just, number one, I want to thank you for your service. And of course, for those listening, Bangor, not Bangor, Maine, but the sub-base Bangor, right? Which is near Silverdale. So I'm an Army guy, right? But you're going to be impressed with this, right? So you served on a boomer.
I did.
Right. See?
Absolutely.
See? I speak a little bit of the speak.
Were you Marines or Navy?
I was Navy.
You were
Yeah.
Navy. Okay.
Navy,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Well, the other thing too that for our listeners, graduating from the naval nuclear program is no small task.
No.
That takes some significant smarts.
Hey, before we go to break, I want to ask you this. Because I'm going to because I'm not sure I heard directly, and because you said you grew up a lot, and I acknowledge that. Is there a skill or a mindset or something that came out of that you can point directly to in your entrepreneurship adventure that maybe helped you overcome some adversity or helped you with confidence? Is there something that you could look back and say, I got that from being in the Navy?
If I could choose one thing, I feel like this is a pretty easy answer. And that answer is you can't do it by yourself. You know, taking this role as a creative director, I'm definitely seeing, have you ever seen Pimp My Ride?
Yes.
So basically I imagine myself as Exhibit, and I got these team of creatives and I'm like, yo, check it out. We got this real estate agent. This is what they want to do. What do you think? And then someone's like, they like puppies.
Bigger rims.
Well, yeah, let's build a house with puppies and shoot videos. Yeah. So, you know, I really do enjoy what I do, but I enjoy it more when I have a team and, you know, people to collaborate with, share ideas, and just different perspectives for sure. So yeah, that the answer to that question is I can't do it by myself.
Yeah, one of my my favorite people in the world is a speech coach named Patricia Fripp. She says you can't be brilliant by yourself. So I believe that as well. Well, you know what else we can't do by ourselves is run this show. We've got sponsors. And so we're going to take that short break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Bradley Franco with Ulterius Flux, for our famous Plead the Fifth section of the show, we are going to find out, I can't even read my writing. Oh, here we go. We're going to find out if everyone is actually a critic. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more from the Seattle Shrimp Tank.
The Seattle Shrimp Tank is brought to you by our studio sponsor, Whedon Unleashed. As a business owner, you don't have a professional life and a personal life. You have a life. And that life is full of opportunities and obstacles. Your business is a vehicle to fuel your life. If you run out of fuel because of a crisis, then your entire lifestyle is affected. Dan Whedon works with small and medium-sized business owners to ensure that no calamity is fatal. Dan focuses on accelerating business growth while at the same time planning and implementing strategies on preventing, mitigating, and recovering from those obstacles of business and life. Through his consulting work and his partnership with First Underwriters Insurance to finance your risk, he'll make sure that, with confidence, to unleash the value of your business and lifestyle. To get a complimentary review of your situation, call Dan at 360-271-1592. Again, that's 360-271-1592. Or email him at dan@danwhedon.com. Tell Dan you heard him on the Seattle Shrimp Tank podcast and receive a 20% discount on any work you agree to. Be unleashed and be well.
Welcome back to the Seattle Shrimp Tank from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs in the Seattle and greater Puget Sound area. I am Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host, Dan Whedon. You can always catch a replay of the podcast on shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or catch us now on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. For our next segment, Plead the Fifth.
And Plead the Fifth is sponsored by our shrimp peelers, West Sound Workforce, Port Ludlow Resort, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, SJ Graphics, and the Kitsap Sun. Bradley, we're going to turn up the heat a little bit. We're going to pepper you with some more questions. This time, you're going to have to answer all of them unless you plead the fifth, and you can only do that once. So if you plead the fifth early, we're going to have some fun with that. So I mentioned everyone being a critic. Plead the fifth, Bradley. Who is your worst critic? You, your family, or Delilah?
Oh, you're so funny. For those that don't know, Delilah's my dog.
Yeah.
She's actually my number one fan. So
I thought Delilah is a famous radio talk show host.
She is.
In this case, so Delilah is his dog, and so yeah.
Delilah, come here.
So Delilah's your biggest fan. Then who's your biggest critic? Is it you or your family?
Wait 1 second here. I'm gonna.
Oh,
introduce.
we're gonna meet. This will be a first. I think we're gonna meet the first. Hi, Delilah.
Oh, look at
Here she
that.
is.
That's awesome.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, she's my #1 fan for sure. Okay. Thanks, puppy.
So I'll pair. I wanted to get Delilah in. So
Mhm.
talk about this. Are you a perfectionist? Are you sometimes your biggest critic? And because I think we see that in entrepreneurship often, don't we?
Absolutely. That's like 7th time. So, word of the day. I would definitely say that as a creative, I'm definitely my own worst critic for sure. I've just learned how to accept things, creating deadlines and just putting out the content, because it's not all going to be perfect. Let's be honest, but being okay with things, because I can literally spend, days on a project, but it gets to a point where you just need to draw a line and be like, it's good.
So, one of the things that I admire about you, Bradley, is in the bio that I read and that you sent to us. One of the things you talk about, right, is dropping out of college 3 times. Well, that's great. I mean, own it, right? But here's the plead the fifth, and that in those past failures, did you learn more from the failure than what success would have taught you?
Yes. Failure, again, it has such a strange negative connotation that people attach to it. I definitely feel that what I love about failure is it really humbles you. Could you imagine if you were always successful and what that would do to your ego? I don't think that would be healthy. And I think it's really important that we kind of come back to where we're at and remind ourselves, why we're doing what we're doing. And the easiest way to do that is to fail at something miserably, but really taking that, being grateful for it, and picking yourself back up.
So Bradley, you've done a lot of these video business cards, and I've got to believe that you become emotionally invested in them too, because these people are telling a story, and you're part of that. Plead the fifth. What story has most impacted you? Maybe brought you to tears, or has gotten you the most? Tell us about that one that probably got to you the most.
That's difficult to answer, because I feel like everybody's story is unique. Hearing where all these people have come from, really,
Give us one of the most unique. Tell us one of the most unique ones.
I would say probably my latest one, which is the Marvin Williams Recreational Center in West Bremerton. And long story short, Bishop Lawrence basically had this vision to recreate the rec center, because the previous one got destroyed. And before he could see it become completed, he actually passed away, I think a few months before it happened. So what I really love about that story, for one, for his wife to share that with me, but also, it really shows what a legacy really is. Being able to have something that you remember by after you pass.
So to help with that a little bit, for those people watching that don't know, Marvin Williams, great high school basketball player in Bremerton, which is in Kitsap County, went on to start the University of North Carolina, and then pro basketball player for probably 10 years. And so he provided funds to help build this rec center in downtown Bremerton. And I think you mentioned, who was the one who helped spur that on?
As far as who
you said he passed away.
Oh, Bishop Lawrence.
Bishop Lawrence. Yeah. That was his project. So it's kind of a very cool project. And so that was one that you've helped with recently.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So Bradley, you've obviously, had a journey of your own, from, the Navy to, working for others to working for yourself. Plead the fifth. If you could share one piece of advice for people who are just starting out, and I'm saying starting out in business, what would it be?
I would say listen to that inner voice that we all have, which is actually really interesting if you think about it. Like, where's that coming from, right? But don't ignore it. Really listen to your gut. And just from my experience, I listened to it, and it didn't really go exactly as I thought it would. I mean, that's kind of life in general, right? But looking back 2 years, I wouldn't change a thing, and I'm really grateful that I continue to pursue this.
So I have maybe the last question, Brad Berger, as so you can get kind of teed up and ready. I can't believe time has flown by so fast, but I have to ask this question because our crack staff, and this is, I think is Barb, my wife, who does a lot of the stalking and research on our guests. And she found out about something that you did, Bradley, that is called a 30-day cold shower challenge. So I want to, how did you tell us what you learned about your 30-day cold shower challenge, or what was that like?
Yeah, it was really cold, to say the least. And there were so many times where I would go to take a hot shower, right? And I would forget that was my challenge. So I remember like making the shower all nice and hot. And then before I step in, I'm like, it almost felt like I betrayed myself. But besides all of the health properties that, I won't really get into, there's this thing called The Flinch. It's actually a really good book. I forget who it's by, but it basically talks about that moment. You either do it or you don't. And so, yeah, with the cold showers, it's almost, I feel like I got what I needed to. And, I don't drink, I don't smoke. So hot showers is like the one thing that I get to enjoy, and I earned it. So, yeah.
So it had to be terrible when you had the hot shower on, and then that must have made it even worse when you went to cold, didn't it?
Absolutely. Well, no, I had it ready. So I was just about to get in. And then it was, again, like I felt like I betrayed myself. And I was like, I turned it cold. I had to do like a little pep talk, like, okay, here we go. Jump in, jump out. But, it's kind of like exercising. Sometimes it sounds like a bad idea, but afterwards you're glad you did it.
Great.
Well, by the way, I'll mention that stalking versus stalking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we pronounce it the same, right?
Yeah,
well,
yeah. So yes, I don't want to put that didn't come out probably as well, but she's our detective and doing a little detective work on everybody.
Our profiler.
Yeah.
Well, Bradley, we want to thank you so much for coming on the program today. For our listeners that want to get more in touch with you or learn more about Ulterius Flux, how can they get more information?
You can either go to my Facebook page at Ulterius Flux Inc. or my website, which is www.ulteriusflux.com.
Well, our next show from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio will be Wednesday, August 5th, 2020, where our guest will be Sue Sanford with Upstart Group. Make sure you check out all the replays on shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle and now on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And remember, to become a shark, we all start out as shrimps.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in a shrimp tank.